For the love of money. Gotta make that money, man.
What's up, good people, and welcome back to my channel where we bond over our favorite TV shows, trending topics, and everything in between that we care about. So today, I am back with another video, and this video is actually about a year in the making. And it's taken me this long to put this video together and actually shoot it for various reasons. Nevertheless, the moment in time covered in this video is literally the progression of the events that led to my personal revelation of who Darius Crooks really was at his core. After 10 years of friendship and seeing this situation unfold, I slowly started to come to the realization that I had been friends for many years with an alleged sociopath who had been wearing 2 masks during the entirety of our friendship. So I'm inviting each and every one of you to come along in this journey down memory lane as we reveal the details of Darius Crooks' first big scam, also known as FreshGo. So let's get into it. Okay, so we have here a post from someone in It's Time to Deplatform Darius Crooks Williams Facebook group. Feel free to join. There's a public page if you're interested. There's plenty of receipts and all sort of things over there. And this post says, FreshGo receipts, fake grocery delivery service owned by Darius Williams in Chicago and closed in 2012 when he ran off with everybody's money, including mine. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down some of these receipts, and I'm going to give you a timeline as we go through it, starting with Sunny Anderson and her connection to Darius, but also the whole FreshGo scam. So this is a summary, and this was actually in the Black Enterprise article that was done, the second article that Black Enterprise did on Darius Williams, or also known as Darius Crooks. And this kind of breaks down and gives a summary of the FreshGo situation, and I'll fill in the gaps as needed. But let me read this to try to get us on the same page with this situation. So it says, Sunny Anderson and Williams FreshGo controversy. Anderson claims that Williams had a FreshGo business where it promised to deliver fresh vegetables on the doorsteps of customers, but people bombarded her with angry messages claiming they were ripped off and overcharged on their credit cards. They hit up Anderson because she had him on her show 2 years ago. And remember, I mentioned that in a video or so ago. I can't remember. It's got so many of these videos now. But Sunny Anderson had Darius on her Food Network show many years ago, and he was on there like twice. This was over a decade ago. This was when it was actually his first big break. And what he did with his first big break was presented and advertised a scam. Craziness. And then he wonders why his brand won't grow and he got issues. But anyway, let's continue. It says, Anderson said she gave Williams the benefit of the doubt, but she says he refused to answer her inquiries. Yeah, she's definitely spoken on that. Sunny is then quoted as saying, the bottom line is, before me, no one on TV knew of him, and he didn't have a platform to build what he built. Just imagine if you could do it the right way with the talent and ability to galvanize people. Why wouldn't you want to do it the right way, she asked. And that's a question that many people have asked. Me being one of the people who were there in the inception of what we're seeing today, I have questioned that as well, because I saw the potential, and I was around when he was on the Sunny Anderson show and saw his star, starting to rise and all of that. And the truth is, had he done it right, he could have been successful in a legitimate way, not, by scamming people. And I think it's a psychological thing. I just truly do. Some people allow their demons to take over their talents, and this is a prime example of that. This is why he's facing so much karma, because he basically made a deal with the devil to be a millionaire by the age of 30. I mean, allegedly. I'm assuming based on what we're looking at. Looks like he made a deal with the devil. However, karma is now knocking at his door, and that's what happens. But let's see what else Sunny has to say. So Sunny says she took part in a Zoom meeting organized by the Kitchenista with other Black women chefs, and she was floored by what she heard. She's quoted as saying, a lot of Black women who are eager to get their careers started are being taken advantage of. One person on the call had direct dealings with him, and we were all just crying, she shared. And this here is yet another example of things I've heard, stories I've heard one-on-one personally from people who've reached out, but also other stories that people have shared, third-party stories, etc. And what Sonny is sharing here about having that call with other female chefs and one of them having an encounter with Darius that was obviously so traumatizing that she was crying. Not the first time I've heard it. There are many, many stories of vicious things that he's done to people and tried to ruin them, like stealing intellectual property, taking advantage of them because they were lesser known or naive in some way. He's truly just being a predator. And then when he's done with these people and he's used them up, he doesn't just leave, he tries to destroy them. And so here's just yet another example of that. So let's see what else. It goes on to say, last year, Anderson said when she posted that people should be aware when dealing with Williams because of his scams, she said he and his attorney sent a cease and desist letter that she countered with a letter from her attorney stating that since the attorney general found that he was engaged in illegal credit repair activities, Anderson had the right to call him a scammer on her platform to describe him because he was a scammer. That's why we can do it so freely, because he is a known scammer. The government, the state of Georgia, said he was a scammer, made him pay $145,000 in restitution for the people he scammed. And on top of that, they took away all of his business licenses, including Greens and Gravy and Soul Crab Atlanta. And so she's right. He's a scammer. He's a known scammer. Now, doesn't matter what he tells you about voluntarily closing the restaurants for mental health and all of the other narrative spins that he does. The truth is, it's in the documents. I'm going to read those documents one day because I keep forgetting. But it's actually in the final court documents stating that he had to give up all of his Georgia business licenses, which would include the restaurants. So anyway, it says, in retaliation, Williams sold his cookbooks with the discount codes Sunny and Bad Wig, she said. So this is another, tactic he uses, bullying, when someone speaks out, and you have Sunny Anderson, who has, a large following. She's a public figure. And because he couldn't scare her away from talking about him by taking the legal route, he then went for the petty bullying route and harassment. And the D-wives, the D-hive, they buy into it because they're, not smart. They're not. So, they go along, and then he gets more money. He's being called out for being a scammer. And in retaliation, his clapback is to then take advantage of his D-wives by saying, see, I'm rich. I can make y'all buy more stuff from me. Like, they talking about me. Y'all need to buy more stuff from me. What? It's hilarious. It's really a cult over there. It's funny. It's funny because it's sad. But it goes on to say that even though Anderson says people approached her about his FreshGo business, William proclaims that he has no ties to FreshGo, doesn't know what it is, and never had any affiliations with it. Remember this part, people. I'll read it again. Make a mental note of this, because we're going somewhere with this part. It says, even though Anderson said people approached her about his FreshGo business, Williams, that's Darius Crooks Williams, a.k.a. Darius Crooks, a.k.a. Darius Marquise Williams, another Ellie's. We'll talk about that at some point. But anyway, it says Williams proclaims, or should I say Darius Crooks Williams proclaims that he has no ties to FreshGo, doesn't know what it is, and never had any affiliation with it. Remember that. We're going somewhere. Okay, so the article then continues with an actual quote from Darius. So for those of you who don't have the backstory, because this is just a section of an entire article that I went over a long time ago in a different video. But this particular article was the second article that Black Enterprise did as a response to the first article they did where they talked about all of the allegations around Darius Crooks and how he was a scammer, et cetera, et cetera. So Darius then had one of his D-hivers, D-wives, put her neck on the line, and she reached out to people she knew, the higher-ups at Black Enterprise, and demanded that they retracted the story, the original article. They were saying, we're not going to retract it, but we will give him an opportunity to interview and address the allegations. And so that's what happened. So Darius Crooks, Williams, whatever you want to call him, he, not having a publicist, thinking he can do everything on his own, being full of himself, arrogant, used to being able to spin the narrative and get away with, you know, all kind of sins. Thought that he could fool, I don't know why, but thought he could fool a national media outlet, that being Black Enterprise. And so he just made up shit. He just made up shit. But what he didn't know was that the reporter of this particular story was also the editor, the digital editor in chief, if I'm not mistaken. Her name is Kia Morgan Smith. And so what he didn't know about the rules of engagement when it comes to reporting is that when he responds, then she reached out to us for our response to his response. And what we then responded with were the actual receipts. And on top of that, I got to hear parts of his interview. And so this is recorded. Like, I guess it could be, you know, subpoenaed for court or something, like if needed. So we have this in his own words. So this here, what I'm about to read next, is an actual quote from Darius to the reporter during, you know, while this was all going down. So Darius Crooks Williams, aka Darius Marquise Williams, said, "I have no idea what she's talking about." And he's talking about Sunny Anderson. He has no idea what she's talking about as it pertains to FreshGo. Williams said about FreshGo, which is also referred to as Fresh2Go and FreshGo Now. Okay, and so now here's another quote from Darius himself saying, "I had a cupcake shop and I had a pie shop," he said. Williams said he believes Anderson is jealous. I always crack up on that. Sunny Anderson of the Food Network. Of over a decade, she's been consistently working on the Food Network and other business ventures. She's jealous of Darius Crooks, whose name is infamous at this point. Why? Who would be jealous of that? I don't know. He's so silly. Okay, and so she said, okay, so let me start over since I interrupted that. So it says, Williams said he believes Anderson is jealous of him after he claims producers wanted him to do more shows. I find that very ironic in a way, because the only reason he was on her show was because she invited him on her show. And so if she had a problem or was intimidated by other talent, a person like that doesn't invite people on their show who they think are talented. So that doesn't, but again, his ego, his arrogance, because again, let him tell it, everyone's jealous of him. Everyone who's speaking out has nothing to do with them being a victim of his crimes or scams or doxing or harassment. That it ain't that. No, you can't be offended over that. It's got to be because you're jealous of me. My empty life that is surrounded by how much is in my bank account. You're jealous of that. Like, what? Anyway, so it then goes on to say, Anderson denies that and says she is the one who put him on and only wanted to see him succeed, but had to cut ties when people associated her with his fraudulent companies. This is just what I said. She's saying it. Like, why would she put him on her show if she was that type of person to be jealous of him? That just makes no sense. What caused her to disassociate with him was him getting her name wrapped up in his fraudulent company, because he was on her show talking about the FreshGo situation as he was developing it or whatever. So basically he was advertising FreshGo on her show. And then in addition, he tried to get her to invest as well. So that's why she disassociated herself when she started getting bombarded with all of these claims of him scamming people. Not jealousy, but the fact that she couldn't be associated with that. And who would want to associate with a scammer except for his friends who associate with a scammer present day. But anyway, let's see what's next. So it says, Anderson said nobody got food with FreshGo, and instead people complained about small, incremental, unauthorized charges. We're going to talk about this too. We got so much to cover here. So much to cover. Okay, so after everyone was interviewed with the receipts the second time around, Black Enterprise then circled back to Darius to try to give him an opportunity to address the allegations about FreshGo. And so it says, Black Enterprise followed up and asked Williams directly, "Do you know anything about FreshGo being associated with you?" "Nothing," replied Williams. Okay, and so that's just a snippet of that article. I'm going to actually do a video. It's basically, it's been on my plans for a minute to do a video of the whole thing because it's so many other points in it as well, like other kind of the list of many of the things that have been alleged about Darius Crooks. So that's where we are with that. Okay, so although Darius stated in a recorded interview that he has no knowledge of FreshGo, the articles of incorporations he filed on Tuesday, April the 12th of 2011 in the state of Illinois states otherwise. But we might as well just add this to the list of lies that Darius tells, that there are legal receipts that can prove otherwise. So there's that. So next, let's humor ourselves and see how Darius Crooks described at that time a business that he no longer remembers he ever was a part of. So what we have here is an archived look at the FreshGo website as it was back then. It's now not active, it's pulled down, but the internet never forgets. So people were able to pull this up. So in the About Us section, it says, "Who are we and why are we doing this?" What? It says, "It's simple. Our team consists of regular everyday people that just happen to love good quality food. After sitting around one day talking about our weekends, we had one thing in common. We all had done our weekly grocery shopping and we had all paid way too much for it. We put our heads together and figured it out. We wanted to be able to get great food at great prices. That's it." This seems like something a high schooler would write. He was kind of, no, he had been out of high school many years. But anyway, so he goes on to say, "Now that we figured it out, we're offering it to you." Ooh, lucky us. "It's that simple. There are no huge grocery markup," because there's no groceries. Okay, let me, I gotta be able to read this to y'all. Let me stop. So it goes on to say, "There are no huge grocery markup prices or unnecessary fees to pay. It's straightforward. We offer you almost wholesale prices with no sales tax and no delivery fee. You only pay a monthly administrative charge of $8.95. That'll be charged like 15 times on your card every month. But you save at least that amount on one purchase alone. Shop as much or as little as you'd like." It's so obvious Darius wrote this. I don't know how many of you gonna see this too, be like, he absolutely wrote this. He goes on to say, "We even figured out we'd scratch our heads and come up with great recipes, tips, and tricks around the kitchen, and great themed meal ideas for you. Just spend a little time around the site and you'll like what you see." So interesting that this company he's never heard of and has no association with also has recipes and ideas for great meals and has a theme around cooking. Guess it's just coincidence. It'd be interesting now if we were able to pull up the recipes on this archive website as well to see if they match any that he's still doing today, because I guarantee you they ain't changed. They ain't changed. Anyway, so it goes on to say, if you have questions, so he has a phone number here, shoot us an email, got the fake email address that he never answered. Okay, and then where do we deliver? We deliver to all of Chicago and the suburbs. It's just that simple. Why does he keep saying that? Because it's not simple. Well, I guess it is simple when it's not a real business and you just use it as a means to capture people's credit card numbers. We'll get into that in a minute. And then it, says contact us and has all that. Anyway, so let's move on. What else we got here? So then the other thing we have here is a Foursquare post of him checking in at the imaginary FreshGo warehouse back then. So for those of you who may not remember or been familiar at all, Foursquare was an app that you could just check in at different locations, like wherever you were, whether it was the grocery store, the park, even at home, you could check in and you got like points. I did it. I used to use it, but I never really figured out what the point was. It would track how many times you've been places and stuff, but I never really saw because I think besides points, I think we were supposed to be able to do something with them. But anyway, I know it switched over to Swarm at some point. But anyway, this was back when it was Foursquare and you could do check-ins wherever you were. It was also a way to promote your business. I do remember that. So he was checking in at the FreshGo warehouses or the FreshGo warehouse. And so What it turned out to be was just a small office he had rented in a commercial loft space, which had been newly renovated around that time. And so in doing that, it gave his business a legitimate presence, physical presence. And what I assume in this situation is that he chose that location because of the fact that it's a huge structure. I'll put a picture up. You see it now. But it's a huge structure, as you can see there, and he gets to use the address of something that large. So if people are driving by or even looking up the address, it appears that place could have definitely housed a warehouse grocery delivery service, like had freezers and aisles of food and all of that. It was definitely big enough for something like that on a smaller scale. And so what was actually happening, though, was that he had only rented an office space, like a little office suite. And this office space was not big enough to accommodate not even a fraction of the type of business that he was claiming that he was carrying. So that part was all a facade. And remember, way back in the beginning of my Surviving Darius Crooks series, I talked about the facade and fairy tales that Darius creates in the narratives and the situations where he presents something or situations online that don't really exist in real life. And he started perfecting how to do that way back in the early 2000s and continues it today. And we have a detailed account from another business owner who was actually located in that loft building during the same time as Darius Crooks and FreshGo. So let's see what they had to say. This person says he was operating out of Lacuna Artist Lofts when they first opened. At the time, it was a hub for young Black entrepreneurs and creatives owned by the Kenson Torn family. His suite was located on the 3rd floor, and it had one floor lamp from IKEA, desk, computer, printer, and racks from Home Depot. 0 refrigeration, and the entire space was approximately 300 square feet. So again, 300 square feet, I think my studio space here is bigger than that. And so we know that that's impossible to run a full service grocery delivery company in a space that small. Okay, so then let's see what else they say. Looks like it might have skipped a little bit, and it says, buy the food, put it in a blank paper bag, and deliver the orders. So that's basically what Darius was doing. He would go. Now, these people thought they were ordering like a Peapod type service where Peapod, has their facility where they're getting their items or whatever. And then, putting them on the trucks and then delivering them. People were assuming that's what kind of service they were dealing with. But what was happening was Darius was going to Jewel. Well, we have Jewel, so some of you probably don't know what it is. But Darius was going to regular grocery stores, Publix. I'm trying to think of nationwide, Walmart. I'm trying to think of nationwide grocery stores. But Darius was going to regular old grocery stores, buying the items, some of the items, because they were incomplete orders too, putting them in a plain paper bag, so that, they're not going to be in the shopping bag that the grocery store gave you. It's going to be in a plain paper bag. And then he would personally deliver and leave the groceries at their front doors or wherever. So this person goes on to say he was so sneaky, like would only pop up at the Lacuna when the manager's office was closed. That's something he would do. So they go on to say, no receipts as I know of. I was there as he was setting up. So I saw all of this with my own eyes in real time. So again, he's checked in at the Lacuna Loft. This person gives their account of some of the finer details. Take it with a grain of salt. But we do know that he was using that address, and he was also checking in at the Lacuna Lofts and claiming that that was a FreshGo location. Okay, and so here we see that Darius is announcing that he has secured the phone number of 855 for FreshGo. And this is actually a Facebook post from him where we see this. And, basically we see that he no longer gives that type of access to his customers as far as phone numbers, because that made it a little too easy for them to hunt him down, I guess. And so, now we know that he definitely tries to force them to go into IG Lives and send emails into the abyss. And, all of the shenanigans that he plays, they have to DM him on his social media platforms. There's no direct access to him at all in real time. So anyway, he's learning back here when he had a phone number like, ooh, that ain't no good idea. So his post says here on November 2nd of 2011, Darius Crooks says, lots of progress made. How about our new tail number? Will be 855 for FreshGo. Now, isn't that great? And then you got people perfect and beautiful. So it's funny how he forgets the existence of a company that he put so much work into. Like, there was a lot of posts, and he had a physical location. How do you forget that? Like, I've had multiple businesses, but I can tell you all of them, and I remember details about all of them, creating them and everything else. And so he has had like 22 businesses, I think, is when I added. We'll talk about that one day too. But yeah, I still don't see completely forgetting them. But, being a scammer and always having to duck and dodge people and the stress of, people outing you and exposing you constantly, I guess it could affect your memory. So maybe that's what's happening. But anyway, we go on to the next post, which, again, this is Darius Crooks. This is him on his Facebook once again on December 14th of 2011. He says, just went through picking out a name for @FreshGo now. Didn't read this article, but good to know that I'm on the right track. I don't know. Maybe somebody should ask him, if he recalls this post from December 2014 where he announced the creation of this company that he totally forgot about. And I also wonder if all of this has taught him that the internet never forgets. No matter what you try to attempt to scrub from it, it never forgets. Hence everything we have here.
What?
So let's continue, shall we? So then that leads us to the parallel scam that he also had going on, which was the Groupon scam. Now, the Groupon scam actually started with the Cupcake Gallery and moved into FreshGo as well. So there was actually an article done about it back in 2012. What was it, June 25th of 2012. So very interesting that, Crooks says that prior to what he said, the restaurant's closing, he never heard anything. No one ever spoke out about him. This is 2012. But he did forget that this existed, this whole business. I wonder why. It's very, very convenient to forget this big of a scam. Yeah, it's very convenient.
Hey, poppin' like I'm supposed to. Watch out for the people that ain't close to. Speak a little something you could toast to. I ain't tryna hear about what you won't do. Moving like I'm into. Hit the ground running like the rent do. Speak a little something that you're into. I ain't tryna hear about what you been through. Like hold up, say what's the hold up. I got the pack, who got the roll up? I'm tryna pull up. It seem like every time I show up, it gotta go up. See the drip, they see the glow up. Oh, now they know us. See, it's funny how my pockets out of shape, but I'm fit for the flex. Clear the phone call, hit my chick with a text. Parlay through the bird